Hello, welcome to Stephen Speak, the podcast. How are you all? This week's podcast is a solo one. It's just me, so back to me. Hope you've listened to the first guest speak, which was last week, featuring Steve, chatting about collecting and Pokemon and Lego and all sorts of things. Seems to have a good response so far, so go and check that out. But today's episode is going to be me talking about childhood things once again, and more specifically, learning to cook and bake and like life skills really that were taught to me by my mum and dad. So, which I feel like got lost a little bit. Maybe they haven't, but that's what I've decided to talk about anyway. So, let's get into it. Welcome to Stephen Speak the podcast. Unscripted prattle on everything and nothing. Marvellous. Welcome to episode 6 of series 2. So basically, I want to talk about learning life skills really. Like, I was quite lucky growing up that my mum and dad both let me kind of assist with things, really, from quite a young age. And I think that was maybe partly because I had an older brother who was able to do things before I was, because obviously he was like 5.5 years older than me, and I was kind of wanting to get on the act. So yeah, I think sometimes I probably learnt a bit younger than he did, just because I was always trying to compete with him and do things he could do. But regardless of that, both my parents were very insistent on me learning things and watching what they were doing, or even getting hands-on. So as far as my mum, I'll start with my mum first, because she was pretty much like the domestic goddess. My dad was the big earner, always worked full-time, shift work on the railway and stuff. And my mum, when I was very young, didn't work full-time, did a bit of childminding, kind of part-time, stay-at-home mum. And when she did childminding, she did it at home, so I was kind of interacting with other kids, which I kind of liked and hated at the same time, because I was forced to share my toys, which is not good for any kid. But yeah, excuse me, coughing, clearing my throat. Yeah, so yeah, it's not good for any kid really when you have to share your toys and have that. But that was how my mum made a living. But she was always very involved with me and my brother, like getting us to do things like crafts and stuff like that, not just sitting us in front of TVs and stuff, which we, don't get me wrong, we did, and we had videos to watch and such things. But I think she encouraged our creative sides quite a lot. My dad probably not so much. He was more of a physical guy. Like when he was off work, he'd work in the garden quite a lot, and do the DIY and stuff, which is kind of like the role dads take, isn't it? I think. And plus, it meant he could get a break from us as well, which you kind of understand when you get a bit older. I think. Like I haven't got kids yet, but you kind of get that a little bit. You don't coming from work, spend a bit of time with the kids, and then you've got the excuse to go and fertile in the garden without the kids mithering. But he did still let us join in when we could, when there was something to be done that he didn't mind us joining in on. But yeah, I think with my mum, she was always like a good homemaker, baker, and she was incredible at cooking. Really, making stuff from scratch. It changed a little bit when she got a full-time job, obviously, because when she got a full-time job, she was obviously not at home as much, and you don't have the time then to kind of make your own food. But she was still really, really like proactive on that front, really. But she could really make anything, and without a recipe. And I think when you are cooking, or you've got the knowledge of how to cook, you can kind of make the basics of anything, and then you just like put your own twist on things. And I was having this conversation the other day. This I've just come up with, because as I say, I really enjoy doing podcasts. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about before I come on, and I didn't really today. And I just thought of a conversation that I had the other day with a complete stranger. My wife works in a cheesecake shop, Rainbow Cheesecakes in Crewe. Not a sponsor, but they're brilliant. So if you do get a chance, if you live in the area, go to them. They're delicious, and I'm going to fail at losing weight if I keep eating them. There's one in the fridge right now for me. But there was a chap picking up some cheesecake, and we got chatting, and we were talking about, like, making stuff, and he was saying about how his mum used to make cheesecake, and how she didn't really follow a recipe, and I said, well, I'm exactly the same, and he said he's quite a good cook, and he does the same, and because his mum took that time to, show them how to do stuff, he's now, like, can really turn his hand to anything, and I said, yeah, I'm the same, and literally as I pressed record, I was like, I'm going to talk about that, because especially in the times we're living at the moment where, like, things are expensive, like, you think that, like, grabbing a ready meal is, like, a cheap option, but it really isn't, to be honest. Making your own stuff at home is so much cheaper. Going and buying fresh ingredients, it tastes so much nicer as well. It's more healthy because you know what you're putting in it. There's no preservatives and stuff. And I'm not going to preach about stuff because I'm fat and I don't eat healthily and I don't cook all my own meals all the time. I mean, we've been out for food this weekend and had a takeaway. It's terrible. And eating cheesecake, and I've had a chocolate croissant. Absolutely terrible. The first week of January doesn't count. I haven't broken my New Year's resolution yet because I've not actually started it, so that makes me feel better. But I can cook, so I know I can go out and buy some fresh ingredients and make something. But it's all down to my mum. Like she still is. Like, she's amazing at making cakes, tray bakes. Like, my mum's Irish. She's from Belfast originally. She moved over here because she met my dad in Northern Ireland during the conflicts. Moved over here, had us. They got divorced, and she moved back. I think she regrets moving back, but that's another story for another time. Because obviously she's away from her kids, like, and circumstances happen. But she's over there. We go to visit her, and every time we go to visit her, she always has cakes ready for us, or she'll make something when we're there. And she's very much like the homemaker. Which is kind of like, I've had that passed on to me, but it's an Irish thing as well, if you go into any Irish home, they'll offer you food and cakes and biscuits and sandwiches, and it's a thing over there to make a brew and not have something with it. You can't just, like, in England, like, would you like a brew? Yeah. And you might not be offered anything with it. Like, you've got a brew, that's what you're getting. In Northern Ireland, and in kind of like Scotland as well, and maybe it's like a Celtic thing, like, my Aunt Sally, God rest her, she was, like, the ultimate host. You'd go there, and you might have just had lunch, and you'd go there, and she'd be like, hello, Steve, you alright? I'm like, yeah, I'm alright. She'd, oh, look at you, wasting away. Even if I was the fattest I've ever been in my life, she'd say that. And I'd be like, no, it's alright, Sally, I've just eaten. Oh, go on, have a wee bite. No, it's alright. And she'd come back through with, like, a plate of sandwiches, like, cakes, like, and when I say, like, there'd be just me and my mum visited, maybe, and there was just her and maybe my cousin, and she'd come back through with, like, half a loaf of bread of sandwiches, Paris buns cut up. Now, if you've never had a Paris bun, they're amazing. Some people, they're kind of acquired taste. They're like a really dry, crumbly cake. I don't know why they're called Paris buns. Maybe they're French. I don't know, but I love them. You can't really get them anywhere but Northern Ireland. Well, I've never seen them anywhere else anywhere. I've never made them myself because I would die of being too fat, because I love them. They're a brew drink. They're a brew cake. You have to have some sort of liquid to eat them with because they do dry your mouth out, but they're just spectacular. In my opinion, anyway. We should come through with buttered Paris buns, like any other cakes you had, like anything. And my mum's the exact same. Maybe not on that extreme level, but my mum's the same. And I've inherited that, like, host kind of hospitality. Like, let's make people feel at home. And my mum took that through to baking, food. Christmas was amazing. My mum's food at Christmas was just amazing. But woe betide if you went anywhere near the kitchen on Christmas Day. She wasn't too bothered about you being in the kitchen if she was cooking normally, but you had to have a reason to be in there and get out, like, once you'd done it, and don't get in her way kind of thing. But with Christmas Day, like, the kitchen was off limits, and if you wanted a drink or a cup of tea or anything like that, you shit out of luck, really, because, like, she would not let you back. She would not let you in there because it was like her domain. I'm making Christmas dinner, and our kitchen at home wasn't very big, so there was stuff everywhere, and she hated you lingering around the kitchen. I think most people do that, to be honest. I hate anyone lingering around me when I'm cooking. if you're in the kitchen, I don't mind you standing in the corner and talking to me, but don't be lingering or like telling me how to cook. Even though I do that to other people, which is really annoying. I should stop that. But yeah, the whole cooking thing. Like my mum used to invite me into the kitchen. You know, it was a thing when I was a kid. Like if you're in the kitchen, you're either observing and learning, or you're doing. You're not going to stand and mess around. Like as soon as you mess around and get out of the kitchen, you're not learning anything. But I was always like wanting to know how she did stuff. Like how'd you do this? How'd you do that? I suppose it was kind of like again like a competition with my brother because he wasn't bothered about stuff like that really, and maybe it's not as much as me. Because I was very hands on, loved the cooking. Maybe in a different life I could have been a chef, to be honest. I do like cooking quite a lot, I like experimenting with things. But my mum was just, she had loads of recipe books, but I think it was just like the skills that, you've cooked something a couple of times, you can tweak it to yourself. So she knew like, as I say, like she knew like base sauces, so she could make like a tomato sauce base, or I don't know, like a bechamel sauce, and once you know them things, then you can you make what you want, and that's the skill I've got really. Like I can go in the cupboard, like even if we haven't been shopping for a while, and I'll just grab a few things out, chop a few vegetables up, and I've got like a pasta bake or something. And I feel people are losing that skill. I think that we're such a disposable, pre-packed society. And people have quite a lot of disposable income in general. I'm not saying everyone does, but the people that do are probably a bit lazy with food, I would say. And I'm being very sweeping, obviously. I'm making a very sweeping statement. And I say I'm not averse to it. Like I am terrible for at certain times of the month. like when I'm having my period. When I'm having my man hormone period. I do like, just like to just go and buy crap. And I think everyone gets like that. But I do take a lot of pride in making stuff as well. And I've actually just ordered on Amazon like food prep containers again, because I ordered some a few years ago and they've slowly dwindled in the cupboard from like overuse and damage and stuff. So I've just ordered a load more, and I'm gonna start using them to like make stuff at work and like pre-make some food. But my mum taught me like how to make main meals, how to time things, and like basics like how to cook rice, how to cook eggs, how to cook pasta, how to make a lasagna, how to make a cake, the basic sponge, and I can't always remember like the measures, but like I remember the like tips and tricks that she used to teach me about, make sure you preheat the oven, make sure you do this, make sure you line the tin, make sure you and it's little things like the best way to line the tin, the best like the best way to butter it, the type of butter to use. She always like swore by Stork, like Stork's always the best one to use, like buy the Stork butter for making your cakes, and yeah, it was always fascinating watching it, and I think she got something out of it, me learning. And I remember one night, I can't have been too young, but I was probably like maybe like 10, 12, and I said to my mum, I said, I want to do, can I make the tea? And I remember there was a recipe. I'd been looking through a recipe book, and I saw this chicken cobbler, which was like a crumbly top crust with like a chicken and mushroom sauce. It was like a pie, but with like a cobbler crust on it. And I said, I want to make it my own. I want to make it from scratch. Like you can observe, but like I'm okay. I think I can do it. And I made it from scratch. Did everything. She kind of, when I was using the hob and stuff, the gas hob, she was like observing, so I didn't set fire to the house, but that kind of got me like a bit of a stripe, I think, on my sleeve for making a whole meal myself, and it was bloody delicious, if I say so. I think my dad was quite impressed. My dad's until my mum and dad got divorced, my dad was never really a great cook. He had to make quite an effort to kind of keep up the standard that he'd left behind after he divorced my mum. My dad has always been ace at cheese on toast. I don't know what he does to cheese on toast. He makes the best cheese on toast I have ever tasted. And weirdly enough, he makes really good like bean and cheese toasters. Like we used to have a toaster maker at home, and he was always in charge of the toaster maker. And to this day, I've still not been able to like match his bean toasters, baked bean toasters. Any Americans or people from the rest of the world listen, just Google like sandwich makers, like toasted sandwich makers. I don't know how popular they are in other parts of the world, but in the UK, it's a thing. It was a big thing in the 80s and 90s, especially for my childhood. But you basically just bought 2 pieces of bread, put them in the thing, fill them, and then close the machine, and it just toasts them and heats up the internals. It will, like, the internal temperature of the items does get to the temperature of the sun, so you've got to watch yourself, because you will burn your face off. But yes, it's, my dad was never a great cook, and he's all right now. You know, when they did get divorced, he had to pull his socks up and learn how to cook, and he was all right. And I don't think it was because he never cooked. I think it was just because he'd assumed the role he did, and my mum was such a homemaker that she assumed that role in the kitchen, and she enjoyed it, and she still does now. Like, we go over to visit her in Ireland, and she'll make us like a full Sunday dinner, like no matter what, pretty much. And she loves cooking for people. She loves being that host, as I've said, and she always has a cake ready for us. Even if I say to her when I'm on my way, I'm like, "Mum, don't make a cake. We'll go out to cafes and stuff, and we'll on days out and stuff, we'll eat in cafes. We won't want cake in the house." But she still every single time she'll make like 30 bloody cupcakes. She'll make like little fairy cakes, and she'll make a cake maybe as well. And she'll buy chocolate and biscuits, and the place is rife. I put like half a stone on every time I go over to visit her. But she taught us all them things because she wanted us to, when we left the nest, so to speak, she wanted us to be able to fend for ourselves, and it helped me out because when I did leave home, like, there was no problem with me cooking. Like, I had no problems with that. I used to food prep like crazy to save money. Like, I wanted to spend my money going out getting drunk, going to festivals, gigs and stuff. So what I used to do is, and my mates used to think I was crazy. I used to buy like food storage bags, and I would go and I would make like a couple of different pasta sauces, a couple of different curries. I used to normally buy the curry sauce, if I'm honest with you, because it was just easier. But pasta sauces I used to make completely from scratch, and I'd just go and buy like a big shop, and I would food prep like 5-6 different types of meals, like curries, pasta sauces. Maybe do a lasagna or a pasta bake, and then I would literally let it all cook. I'd do this all at the same time, make all these different meals at the same time. But wouldn't cook rice or pasta normally, unless I wanted to make complete meals for work. Sometimes I would do that, but then I'd bag it all up and put it in the freezer, and I'd have probably like 30 meals. So that would do me for the month potentially. I could come home from work, and I would always have something to hand, or even for lunchtime, always have something to hand that was nice and healthy. And while it was defrosting and cooking in the microwave, it's just easy to throw some rice on or some pasta. And that's what I used to do. And it served me well. And making my own cakes. I like making my own cakes every so often. Made Sarah a cow cake when we first got together. Made her a big cow face cake, and it looked all right, to be fair. Like, I'm not saying I'm like a master chef or anything, but I get by, let's say. But I do like cooking, and my mum always taught me just to throw stuff in, do it by taste, if you think it needs more salt, just throw it in. And the recipe, if it says 100 grams of this, just do it to taste, and that's what she's kind of always been like, just feel it. And I think when you cook something a few times, you do get the feel for it. But yeah, I used to food prep like crazy, and that's what I'm going to try and get into that a little bit more, because for work and stuff, it's so easy. Like, when you call it short, there's so many places you can go, like grabbing a coffee, and then you get a little cake with it, or your little sandwich, and you're paying like £7 or £8 a time. Whereas you could go somewhere like Lidl, Aldi, or even any supermarket really, and buy like £10 worth of fruit and veg and stuff, and make your own sauces, a couple of tins of tomatoes and stuff, and you're sorted. You could probably make, like, for the same price, you can probably make a few days' meals. And really need to take my own advice. And I just think it's a skill. I feel like it's a skill that has been lost. And I hope I'm wrong. But you see things on the internet, and I when I was a kid, I went round to one of my mates' house once, and bearing in mind, like, I made a complete meal at home, and I could cook stuff. If Mum said to me, "Take over," I could finish the meal because I had that maturity and knowledge that she'd installed in me. And I could do that. But I went round to my mate's one night, and we were probably about 11, maybe. I would say we were probably about 11 years old. And his mum was in, but she was like, she'd come in and she wanted to get changed out of her work stuff and go and have a shower and stuff. And I was going there for tea, and she says, "Oh, I haven't got much in, Steve. Really, I've been working." And she said to my mate, like, like make some beans on toast or something. And I was like, "Yeah, beans on toast, fine. I like beans on toast. That's fine." It's kind of like baked beans is like a staple in Britain. And she says, "Right, go and." She got the toaster out, and she went, "Right, sort it out," kind of things to me mate. And he didn't know how the toaster worked. He didn't know how to heat the beans up. Like literally, I was like really shocked, and I was just like, "Are you joking?" And he was like, "No." And he was kind of embarrassed, I think, really, because his mum had never really shown him. I think she just presumed that it's obvious you should know how to use a toaster. You've probably seen me do it. And he literally didn't know. I plugged it in. He didn't know what the little knobs were for on the side. He didn't know how to push the toast down even. Like he kind of did, but then he didn't know if it popped up. What does it pop up? So it pops up when it's done. That little setting on the side. It's kind of like a timer kind of thing, intensity kind of thing. And he was like, "Oh right," and but he didn't know how to use a tin opener to get the beans out, and he didn't know how to heat them and what to put them in to heat them and stuff. And it was it was kind of shocking. So I think she was embarrassed because I kind of did it and heated the beans and did the toast, and he was in charge of buttering it because he did that. And she kind of told him off when she came down and was like, why are you making him make the food? And I was like, "Oh, well, he didn't know how to really do it." And she was like, "Oh my God, what are you on about?" But all I can think of was, that's your fault. Like, you haven't taught him that. And my mum taught me how to sew as well. Like, my mum taught me things like how to sew, like how, she used to get the sewing things out, and she'd be like, "Do you want to see how to do this?" Like, and I was not bad at sewing and stuff at school. I quite liked like home economics at school and making like pillows and stuff like that. And I wasn't too bad at it. Kind of funny, but little things like that, because it's something that you find a finished product out of it. And I've always liked that. I think with cooking, that's probably why I like it, because you start with like raw materials kind of thing, and you end up with a product that you can enjoy. And I think that's what I like about. I think that's what I like about cooking, because you get that. It's kind of like almost pretty much instant gratification. There's a bit of work to get there, and especially when it tastes nice and people give you compliments. That's always really nice, isn't it? But yeah, it's thanks to my mum that I've got them skills, and I'm hoping that people are passing them down, because I'm definitely going to do when me and Sarah hopefully eventually get a baby. I'll be teaching them stuff like that. I'll be raising them to, like, showing them how to shave, showing them how to cut the grass and do bits of DIY and stuff like that. And my dad was always good at letting me watch. He was kind of like, he didn't really like me to join in stuff. Like, he liked to be hands on himself, but he didn't mind me watching. But when I got a little bit older, he used to let me take over a little bit and take charge. But it was always like, cut the grass, learn how to cut the grass properly, like learn how to weed, learn how to wash the car, keep the shed tidy, help tidying the shed out, how to pot plants, how to what time of the year to put this plant out, how to prune the trees and stuff. And even though my dad wasn't he's all right DIY, but he's not great, and he'll admit that. Like, he's not going to go mad at me for saying that. Like, I did tell you about the story about him setting fire to the garden, so he's not going to be like shocked that I would say that. But he always got by, and he always did what he needed to do, and he always showed us, like, he'd even prefaced it sometimes, like, it's probably the best. There's probably a better way of doing this, but this is how I do it. But he always got the job done, and for the time of constraints he had when he was working, he worked a lot of hours. He got stuff done, and you kind of got to applaud someone for that. Working so long and still achieving the goal, which is what you need, really, I think. And yeah, I just shit. That was my podcasting. I can't take. Oh dear. It never rains but it falls. That was my podcasting thing falling off. I built a new stand for it, and I'm guessing I've not tightened it up correctly. So yes, there we go. I thought I'd got away with having any disasters in this episode, but apparently not. There we go. Right, are we back to the normal settings? I think. Are we back? Oh my god! That's an absolute disaster just occurred. I will hopefully infill them. I don't know if you heard any of what I said, because I think it was muted. I'm not sure, but my podcasting gear just like fell off, and yeah, that wasn't good. Hopefully it's all right. Hopefully everything's going okay. But yeah. Whew, there we go. Jesus. Yeah, just when you think the episode's going okay and it doesn't. I put a new stand up yesterday from a podcast machine, and I obviously haven't tightened it right. It just literally, I had it slightly bent towards me, and it just fell over. Anyway, my dad was always good at. It's great. I'm talking about DIY, and then something goes wrong in my life, and here's me thinking I'm not too bad at DIY, thinking to myself, yeah, my dad's not great, but I'm all right, and then that happens. Irony holds no bounds. Jesus Christ! I'm waiting for the day when this podcast will be slightly more polished. It doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. Would you have it any other way though? I don't know. Yeah, but my dad was always, he got by and he did stuff, and he had the ways he liked to do stuff. But I think I've kind of inherited that sort of side of my dad where I'm willing to show people do stuff, but maybe to relinquish that control because I like stuff done in a certain way, and I kind of understand how he was when I was a kid now. Like, he used to say quite a lot, you can't do this yet. I need to do this, and she's disappointing as a kid, but that's probably why I spent a lot of time with mum in the kitchen as well, because he'd be like, "Oh, go and help me mum cook, go and help her make cakes." And plus, if I help my mum in the kitchen, especially if she's making a cake, I used to lick the cake batter off the whisk. What are they called? They're called whisks, aren't they? What an idiot! Electric whisk. I used to lick the batter off them. So it was good if I helped my mum because I got sweet treats. But I always wanted to be in the garden with Dad because it's like a manly thing, isn't it? You want to be with your dad. Like I'm a lad. Should be with my dad. And I want to see how he's doing stuff in the garden. I want to see him. Like I was obsessed when I was a kid at cutting the grass and using the strimmer. When I was old enough that he would actually let me, I didn't want to do it. It's like it's the whole irony thing, isn't it? Like when you get to the age where he goes, right, you've always wanted to cut the grass, right? Today we're going to cut the grass, and I'm like, do I have to? And our garden when we lived at home was bloody massive. We had like a little top lawn. We had a front garden to start with, and we had that concreted over because when we had a couple of cars, especially when my brother started to drive. So we used to have a little front lawn, and then we had like a little top lawn in the back garden, and then there was like a little border. Was when we had the garden all landscaped, made it a bit easier. But we had this little top lawn, which was probably like maybe about like 5 by 6 by 4 meters or something like that. And then the rest of the garden, there was a little flower bed, and then the rest of the garden was all lawn. And then when we had it landscaped, we had it broken up with like a gravel area and a patio area. But to cut the grass, when it was original, when we first moved there, say there was these 2 small lawns, front and back, and then after the flower border, there was probably like 30 or 40 meters of grass. So it would take a couple of hours to cut the grass, because we didn't have a lawnmower that like collected the grass. It was just an old lawnmower at first we had. And then by the time I started using it, we had like an electric one that would collect it, so you had to empty the grass thing every so often. And I hated it. Like I was like, why did I want to do this? Like, but I also felt like I've got to that age now where my brother used to be, where I could do it. And then my brother would get out of doing the grass because now the torch was in my hands. But I used to like cleaning the car and stuff, but and tidying the garage and stuff like that. But I used to weed the garden. I used to really like weeding the garden. I don't know why. I couldn't think of anything worse nowadays. But he was always good at showing. Maybe a little bit less patient than my mum. I think that's just dads in general, isn't it? It's just, but yeah, I think he was always slightly less patient than my mum. But he was always willing to do things and to show us stuff and to be that person. And he was quite hands on sometimes. I'm trying to think of an example of when he was really really good. But fishing probably was the thing. He used to take us fishing, and he was really, again, not the greatest fisherman, but he was very hands on because it was like his hobby, and he was like passing the torch probably like on the hobby side of things as well. So it's quite interesting, like differences between my mum and dad really about showing stuff. But the point is, they showed us stuff and we knew stuff, and we knew how to drill a hole in the wall. We knew how to like put a picture up. We knew how to like wire a plug. My dad showed me that. Like, he's terrible at doing it. He knows the premise of it and he gets it wrong every time, but he showed us the right way, even though he never follows it. And I think that's just the difference of like having people there. Whereas I think a lot of parents and stuff, I feel like I might be just making a terribly sweeping statement, but I feel a lot of parents now rely on the internet a lot and I mean, I must admit, I do. I Google stuff when I started doing this podcast. I used YouTube a lot to get information about what's the best podcasting gear, what's the best microphone, what's this and that. And but I feel like there's a lot of misinformation on the internet as well. And I think you can't beat someone hands on showing you something. And and I just hope that continues, because I can't wait. I actually can't wait until I've got a child I can pass that information on to and show them that you don't have to be so strict following a recipe. Here's how to wire a plug, and I can't wait for them to be able to put a tool in their hand and actually have them create something and do something for themselves, and then to take that into adulthood and know how to do that, and then feel proud that I showed them that. And I think that's, for me, is really important, and we should be showing the next generation how to do the basic stuff like iron clothes. Even though I hate ironing, we should be doing that, and we need that, and that should be in schools. I seriously think that another prime minister's literally, don't like to get political, but he's just said that maths should be taught until 18. Like, how about teaching people how to cook a meal? How about teaching people how to manage their money? Stuff like that is really, really essential. And again, that's something my mum and dad taught me, the value of money. I had to work for any pocket money. I didn't just get pocket money because that was a thing. Like, I had to earn it, and if I didn't do anything, if I wasn't good in school and I didn't do my chores or I didn't help out in some way, I didn't get money. And that's life. You don't pull your weight. You don't get rewarded for being lazy. Well, thank you very much for listening. I apologise for the massive crash 3/4 of the way through. But hey, that's what you get with me. Unedited prattle and disasters, apparently. The next guest speak's coming up soon. I'm not sure who it's going to be yet. We're just organising some recordings. I've just done a recording this week, so we'll see when they get released, but I'll let you know as soon as I know. So follow on social media and check that out. And if you've got any comments or feedback, or let me know how you want the podcast to go. Let me know if you've got any comments about this episode. Were you taught things at home? Have you got life skills that you were taught, or did you not get taught and you just had to fend for yourself, or did you learn by observation? Let me know. Contact me on social media. DM me. Just comment on posts and let me know you're out there. Take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you all soon. You've been listening to Stephen Speak the Podcast. Thanks for listening to my unscripted prattle on everything and nothing. Visit stephenspeak.com for updates, information, and my blog. You can follow more updates on social media at StephenSpeakPC. Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you soon.